Someone is standing beside you now, not because you were loud, not because you demanded loyalty, not because you promised perfection, but because day after day you showed up in the same direction. You didn't announce your discipline. You didn't ask for applause. You just kept moving, even when no one was watching, even when the progress felt invisible, even when the results lagged far behind the effort. And slowly, almost quietly, something rare happened. Trust began to grow. Consistency is not dramatic. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It looks boring from the outside. It looks repetitive. It looks ordinary. But inside it carries an extraordinary message: I am reliable. I will be here tomorrow. You don't need to wonder where I stand. You don't need to guess my values. My actions will explain everything. And when people see that long enough, they stop questioning. They stop doubting. They stop waiting for you to change. They start walking beside you. At first, you probably walked alone. Not because people didn't like you, but because they didn't know if you would last. The world is full of starters. Full of people who burn bright for a week and disappear by the next. Full of promises that sound good in the moment but collapse under pressure. So when you began, most people watched from a distance. They observed quietly. They told themselves, let's see how long this lasts. And you never argued with their silence. You never tried to convince them with words. You let time do the talking. There were days you wanted to stop. Days when your effort felt unreturned. Days when the road felt unfairly long. Days when inconsistency tempted you with comfort. But something deeper than motivation kept you moving. Motivation fades. Discipline gets tired. What carried you was identity. You decided, this is who I am. I am someone who shows up. I am someone who finishes. I am someone who does not disappear when it gets uncomfortable. And every time you honored that identity, even in small ways, you strengthened it. People don't follow intensity for long. They follow stability. They follow patterns they can trust. They follow the person who doesn't change direction every time the wind shifts. When they saw you returning to the same work, the same values, the same standards, something in them relaxed. Human beings crave safety. Not the safety of comfort, but the safety of predictability. Knowing what to expect from you became a relief in a chaotic world. And that is powerful. You may not have noticed the moment it happened. Consistency rarely has a clear turning point. One day you just realize the silence feels different. The absence feels different. Someone starts asking questions. Someone starts checking in. Someone starts aligning their pace with yours. Not because you asked them to, but because your steadiness made them believe this path is worth walking. You didn't recruit them. You inspired them by example. There's a quiet confidence that comes from repetition. Not arrogance. Not ego. Just a calm knowing that you can be trusted with responsibility, with pressure, with time. That confidence leaks into everything you do. The way you speak becomes more grounded. The way you listen becomes more patient. The way you respond becomes less reactive. And people feel that. They may not be able to explain it, but they sense that you are anchored. And anchored people attract others who are tired of drifting. Consistency teaches patience in a world addicted to speed. It trains you to respect the process even when the outcome is delayed. It forces you to build a relationship with boredom, with routine, with repetition. And in doing so, it builds something most people never develop: resilience. Not the loud, heroic kind, but the quiet kind that endures. The kind that doesn't break when excitement fades. The kind that doesn't need constant validation. That is why someone is standing beside you now. They didn't arrive during your loudest moment. They didn't come when everything was exciting and new. They came after watching you survive the dull middle. After watching you remain when others dropped out. After watching you choose commitment over convenience. They saw proof. And proof is persuasive. Consistency also exposes your character. Over time, masks fall away. Pretending becomes exhausting. Only what is real remains. When you consistently act with integrity, kindness, effort, and honesty, those traits stop being performances and become truths. People are drawn to truth. They are tired of contradictions. They are tired of wondering who someone really is. With you, they didn't have to wonder. You showed them again and again. There's a cost to this, of course. Consistency requires sacrifice. It asks you to say no when yes would be easier. It asks you to keep going when quitting would be applauded. It asks you to disappoint short-term desires in favor of long-term respect. And many people are not willing to pay that price. That's why consistency is rare. That's why it stands out. That's why it builds leaders without titles and influence without force. You didn't chase people. You chased standards. You didn't try to be impressive. You tried to be dependable. And dependability is magnetic. When someone sees that you don't crumble under pressure, that you don't vanish when things get hard, that you don't shift your values based on convenience, they feel safer attaching themselves to your journey. They know you won't abandon it at the first sign of resistance. Standing beside someone is a choice. It's a quiet vote of confidence. It says, I believe in your direction. I trust your pace. I trust your consistency. And that trust was earned slowly, patiently, through repetition. Through mornings you showed up tired. Through days you worked without recognition. Through nights you questioned yourself but didn't quit. You may still feel like you're not doing enough. Like the progress is too slow. Like the recognition is too small. But look beside you. Someone is there. That alone is evidence that your consistency is working, even if the full results haven't arrived yet. People don't stand beside potential. They stand beside proof. And you have been proving yourself, quietly, steadily, relentlessly. This is not the end of the journey. It's a confirmation. A sign that what you're building has weight. That your habits are shaping more than just your own life. That your example is speaking even when you are silent. And as long as you continue to honor consistency, more people will notice. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But steadily, just like you. And perhaps the most important part is this: you didn't do it for them. You did it for yourself. You did it because you refused to betray your own standards. The fact that someone is standing beside you is not the goal. It's the byproduct. The real victory is that you became someone worth standing beside. There is a quiet moment that arrives after consistency has been proven long enough. A moment where you realize you no longer need to explain yourself. You no longer need to justify your pace, your discipline, or your choices. The work has spoken. The pattern has been established. And in that silence, something powerful happens inside you. You stop chasing external confirmation and start trusting your internal compass. That shift changes everything. Consistency reshapes how you see time. In the beginning, time felt like an enemy. Every slow day felt like failure. Every delay felt personal. But as you stayed, as you repeated, as you endured, time became your ally. You learned that time rewards what is steady, not what is loud. It strengthens what is repeated, not what is rushed. And while others tried to sprint toward quick results, you were building something that could stand. The person beside you now likely didn't join because you asked them to believe. They joined because belief became unavoidable. They saw you on days when nothing seemed to move, when progress was microscopic, when the temptation to change direction was strong. They noticed that you didn't disappear. They noticed that you didn't lower your standards to match your mood. They noticed that your effort wasn't dependent on applause. That kind of discipline is rare, and rarity draws attention. Consistency also teaches humility. When you commit to showing up every day, you confront your limits honestly. You see how much patience things really require. You learn that mastery is not built through dramatic breakthroughs, but through thousands of small corrections. You stop thinking in terms of quick wins and start thinking in terms of longevity. And humility makes you approachable. It makes people feel that walking beside you is safe, not competitive. At some point, you stop measuring your progress against others. Not because you were ahead, but because comparison lost its relevance. Your focus narrowed. Your energy became more intentional. You learned that consistency demands conservation. You can't afford to waste energy on doubt, jealousy, or distraction. And that focus gave your presence a certain calm authority. People trust calm. Calm signals control. The world teaches people to admire talent, but life teaches them to rely on consistency. Talent impresses at first glance. Consistency proves itself over time. And when pressure arrives, when conditions are unpredictable, when things get uncomfortable, people instinctively turn toward what has been reliable. That's why someone stands beside you now. Not because you are perfect, but because you are predictable in the best way. Your effort doesn't disappear under stress. There were moments when you felt invisible. When you wondered if anyone noticed how hard you were trying. When you questioned whether showing up without recognition was foolish. But invisibility is often part of the process. Roots grow in darkness. Foundations are built below ground. Consistency works quietly at first because it is constructing something that can carry weight later. The person beside you is standing on that foundation now. You also learned how to forgive yourself without excusing yourself. Consistency does not mean perfection. It means returning. It means correcting without quitting. It means refusing to let one bad day become a bad identity. That self-respect is contagious. People are drawn to those who can recover with grace. Who don't spiral. Who don't dramatize failure. Who simply adjust and continue. Standing beside someone consistent feels different than standing beside someone passionate but unstable. There is less anxiety. Less guessing. Less emotional whiplash. With you, the rhythm is steady. The expectations are clear. The direction doesn't change every week. And that stability creates loyalty. Not forced loyalty. Chosen loyalty. You didn't realize it at the time. But every day you showed up when it would have been easier not to, you were building credibility. Credibility is not built through speeches or promises. It is built through alignment. What you say matches what you do. What you plan matches what you execute. Over time, that alignment becomes undeniable. And when people see that, they relax into your presence. Consistency also stripped away your need to be seen as exceptional. You stopped trying to stand out and focused on standing firm. And ironically, that made you stand out more than ever. Because while others were chasing attention, you were building substance. While others were curating images, you were cultivating habits. And habits compound in ways appearances never can. The person beside you might not say much about why they chose to stay. They might not even fully understand it themselves. But deep down, they feel something solid in your presence. They feel that you won't abandon the process halfway. That you won't vanish when it stops being exciting. That you won't trade long-term meaning for short-term comfort. And that feeling is rare enough to inspire commitment. There is a certain kind of respect that only consistency earns. Not admiration. Respect. The kind that doesn't need praise. The kind that shows up as trust. As patience. As willingness to walk at your pace instead of forcing you to theirs. That respect is quieter, deeper, and far more valuable. It doesn't fluctuate with mood or trends. It grows slowly and lasts. You may still be in the middle. Still far from where you want to be. Still carrying doubts about whether your effort will fully pay off. But the presence of someone beside you is a reminder that consistency is already working in ways you can't fully see. Influence doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it simply stands next to you, and as you continue, as you keep choosing the long road over the easy one, more moments like this will appear. Not crowds. Not noise. Just people quietly aligning with your direction. Because consistency doesn't attract everyone. It attracts the right ones. The ones who understand that staying matters more than starting. The ones who value endurance over excitement, and perhaps one day, without realizing when it happened, you will look around and see that you are no longer walking alone. Not because you asked anyone to follow, but because your consistency made following feel natural. There comes a point where consistency stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like home. What once required willpower becomes instinct. What once felt heavy becomes familiar. You no longer wake up negotiating with yourself about whether you will show up. The decision has already been made, long ago, through repetition. And that inner certainty changes how you move through the world. The person standing beside you senses this. They feel that your commitment is no longer fragile. It doesn't depend on mood, inspiration, or external reward. It is rooted. And rooted people create a sense of direction simply by existing. They don't rush. They don't panic. They don't chase. They move forward, and others naturally adjust their pace to match. Consistency teaches you how to hold silence. You stop filling space with explanations. You stop defending your path. You understand that clarity doesn't need volume. Results don't need justification. Presence doesn't need permission. This quiet confidence is not learned through success alone, but through endurance. Through staying when leaving would have been easier. At some point, you realize that consistency has reshaped your self-respect. You trust yourself now. You know that when you say you will do something, you will. That trust is priceless. It removes inner conflict. It simplifies decisions. It frees energy that used to be wasted on self-doubt. And when you trust yourself, others can feel it. They lean in. They feel safe aligning with someone who is aligned within. The journey was never about impressing anyone. It was about becoming solid. Becoming someone whose word carries weight. Someone whose actions don't fluctuate wildly. Someone who understands that real growth is quiet and often unseen. And now, the evidence is standing right there beside you, breathing, walking, choosing to stay. Consistency also taught you compassion. When you struggled, you learned how hard it is to keep going. And that made you less judgmental of others. You stopped expecting perfection. You started respecting effort. This compassion makes you a better companion, not just a stronger individual. People don't just follow consistency, they stay for understanding. You now know that the road will still have difficult stretches. Consistency doesn't remove obstacles. It just changes how you face them. You don't dramatize resistance anymore. You don't internalize setbacks as failure. You see them as part of the rhythm. That calm response to adversity is one of the strongest reasons someone stands beside you. Emotional steadiness is rare, and rare things are valued. There is also a quiet pride that comes with this stage. Not the kind that needs to be announced, but the kind that sits comfortably inside you. You know how far you've come. You know how many times you chose discipline over comfort. And even if no one else fully understands that journey, you do. That knowledge is enough. Standing beside you now, someone is witnessing the long version of success. Not the highlight reel. Not the sudden breakthrough. The long, patient accumulation of effort. And by standing with you, they are choosing that same philosophy. They are choosing depth over speed. Substance over spectacle. And that shared understanding creates a bond stronger than excitement ever could. You may not always walk at the same pace. Paths shift. Seasons change. But what will remain is the mark consistency leaves on a person. It shapes how you commit. How you recover. How you lead without commanding. How you inspire without speaking. Even if one day you walk alone again, you will never truly be alone, because you will carry the proof within you. And perhaps the most powerful realization is this: consistency didn't just bring someone beside you. It turned you into someone who could walk alone without breaking. Someone who doesn't need constant reassurance. Someone who knows their direction even in silence. That strength is the real reward, so if you ever doubt whether the slow days mattered, whether the unnoticed effort was worth it, remember this moment. Remember that someone chose to stand beside you not because you were perfect, but because you were present. Because you stayed. Because you proved, over time, what consistency looks like, and as you continue forward, step by step, day by day, whether with company or alone, know this with certainty: the version of you built by consistency is unshakable. And that is something no applause, no shortcut, and no setback can ever take away.